I am Golok Kumar Simli. I am the Chief of Technology Passport Seva Program in Ministry of External Affairs. I have total 26 years of experience in the field of ICT. Currently, I am heading the Passport Seva Program, the technology wing. The digital technology, the digital foundation, what the government department has, the ministry has created so far, it's really a kind of a boon for the ministry, for the department to deal with such kind of a pandemic in terms of accessing your corporate application, in terms of accessing your corporate network, in terms of providing kind of a access to those corporate network and corporate application to your organization at large. The way we have moved forward, no, from silo days to consolidation stage, kind of a transformation journey as of now, a larger part is because of this kind of a technology available with us, this kind of a digital foundation available with us, especially during the pandemic, where almost I can say that 60 to 70% personnel, especially the IT workforce, they are working from home. Otherwise, it could not have been possible unless you have this kind of a digital ready foundation with us. What we realize that the organizational culture, if you see, the earlier before the COVID-19 era and during the COVID-19 era, if we compare both, the culture of the employees, the training needs, the change management need, their mindset to deal with this kind of a pandemic situation when they are working from home. This kind of digital infrastructure, digital readiness, really helping us to deal with such situation. First and foremost thing is you have to have a learning curve. When I say learning curves means right from silo days to consolidation days to automation stage. Once you are into that kind of a learning curve, and once you have gone up to, let's say, automation stage, then probably you can leverage the big data kind of a technology where apart from your structured data source, you have a lot of then unstructured data source to deal with, and big data is really helping us to deal with especially the unstructured data sets, especially the social media feed, especially the third party stakeholders. And when we are generating, let's say, a lot of data, in terms of uh, public services, in terms of various kind of interfaces, how do you analyze that data and make an actionable insight? And big data kind of a technology really help us to generate such actionable insights so that you can have a quick decision in terms of your improving the services, in terms of meeting the demand forecasting, in terms of dealing with let's say feedback and grievances from the citizens. So but then, as I said, once you have to mature enough, and then probably you can leverage this kind of emerging technology such as big data. In this kind of a pandemic, there are a lot of patterns matching we are doing in terms of detecting the patients, in terms of forecasting on a particular region, whether it is a red alert area or it is a kind of a green zone or it is a red zone or it is a pink zone. Really helping us because of this kind of a big data analytics. The second very important thing is to deal with the passport services, the various sentiments people are posting on their social feeds, whether it is Twitter, whether it is Facebook, and collecting those sentiments as part of big data analytics. Other area, we must understand saying that when you are doing this kind of a big data analytics, getting data from various sources, we must realize that the veracity of the data must be taken care of. All this emerging technology, as I said, no, there is a moving curve, there is a learning curve. You have to have it, and especially like us, we are using on four areas. And when I say four areas, I typically say four W's. The first W is the workforce. Now, how do you deal with your workforce? For an example, you have a WFH kind of environment, COVID kind of a scenario. So how do you deal with your workforce? To deal with your workforce at large, in terms of providing them such kind of an environment, in terms of training them, in terms of making them aware about this kind of a new scenarios. So that is one of the area where emerging technology is helping us in a big way. The second area is, I always say, workload. How do you measure your workload? How do you categorize your workload in terms of which is your fiduciary data, which is your configurable data, which is your public data, now which is the data you like to access on premises, which is the data which you'd like to access from WFH kind of environment. No, so defining this kind of a workload, and then giving a smooth access to your own employees and stakeholders, giving access to the various users at large, including your application guys, your administrators. It's very useful. The third area is, I always say, that the workflow, the application. For an example, enterprise application which was working more or less, let's say, on premises or from a closed user group, we say, intranet kind of environment before the COVID scenario. Now, if the same application, you have same enterprise application, if you have to access from home, how do you deal with that? I'll say pattern analysis, this kind of a forecasting, this kind of a demand adjustment. All those things you can achieve by using this kind of emerging technologies. The last W is website, right? So how do you deal with your content and context while you are using this emerging technology? Those four S, no, and again I said, what are those four S? Is no, speed, scale, security, and sustainability. These four S are continuously maintained. And typically, we take a hybrid model approach because of two, three reasons. The first and foremost reason is every kind of a data, every kind of a functions, you cannot move into the cloud because of the sensitivity and criticality involved. So the very first thing one has to kind of a learn and one has to define is what is your sovereign data and what is your non-sovereign data. You have to define and categorize your data set first, data point first, and then probably accordingly you have to devise your cloud way of moving in a hybrid way. The second very important thing is, when you are adopting a hybrid kind of a cloud approach, you have to see that what kind of application really you mean to move into a cloud. Moving into a cloud kind of a approach, meeting your demand requirement. Other side of it, which is very sovereign in nature, which is very critical in nature, that probably you have to deal with on premises. And that's why you have to be careful saying that when you are dealing with such situation, you must know that which are the workload I am moving into cloud, which are the workload I am accessing in house, and accordingly you have to probably also train your workforce while you are giving access into WFH kind of environment or on premises kind of environment, without disturbing your services at large, without having probably zero downtime kind of a scenario. Can we manage your applications? Can you manage your resources in the on-premises data centers? And containerization based microservices architecture, it really help us in achieving that. For an example, let's say you are doing some application modernization, you are doing some application enhancement. Is that your developer can do the code writing and deployment without even disturbing your production services? And today it is possible. This kind of a containerization based microservices architecture allow you to do that. The second very important thing, every kind of a, I'll say, the layers. For an example, your operation and management, your infrastructure layer, your DevOps environment, your security environment. No, everything is independent of each other. So tomorrow you are not going into a vendor lock kind of a scenario. So if you are trying to really decouple your each of these layers, like should not be disturbed at large. Your resource allocation, no, typically you have seen that, no, whenever you move some application code, or whenever you move some new enhancement into the production environment, first you have to take a downtime, you have to resource your VMs or allocate your memory, and then only you can move into the production environment. But here, if you have this kind of architecture available with us, then you can very smoothly, without even disturbing your product in production environment. So cloud native as a technology, it really help you in meeting the elasticity, in meeting different kind of a work environment to deal with. You don't have to really allocate resources within your own infrastructure or within your own data centers. Today the demand may come sudden, no. For an example, this COVID kind of a scenario, nobody thought that almost 70 to 80% load will be accessed for remotely, that is work from home. Now, is that your in-premises data center or on-premises kind of a infrastructure, resources, whatever it is you have deployed, will be sufficient? No, absolutely not. And then you have to deal with this kind of a scenario. How do you deal with that? And cloud native kind of a technology really comes handy in dealing with such kind of a emergency scenario or unforeseen scenario. Our experience says that there must be a learning curve. You simply cannot move into this kind of a scenario if your learning curve is not well. If you have not kind of a grown up, saying that from one stage to another stage, because there may be a danger saying that kind of a compromising your processes, your policies, your regulation and compliances, your data and information, especially the critical data and critical information. And that's how, while you are one away these kind of a cloud native technology, hybrid cloud, no, these are very handy for you. The other way, you must ensure that the security, the sensitivity, the criticality, the sovereignness of your data and information must be intact, and it must be abide by government norms, compliances, and regulations.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.